Thank you for joining us for another episode of Living Single While Parenting. My name is Jillian. We have our usual suspects, Danita and Keegan. And joining us tonight, we have Anisha. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And you're more than welcome. Tonight's topic is the role that parents play in an education. And I see it in two ways because I'm a teacher by trade and I'm a parent even though my son is young and he's not in school yet. And a lot of times we talk about our students' success or the lack thereof in the educational system. And there's a lot of finger pointing. And personally, I tend to think that it's up to the parents, that the parents should take control of the situation and make sure that their child is getting the best out of their education.
Well, I absolutely agree with that. I think that we as parents should take over where the teacher leaves off and then add a little bit and then send them back to school with a little bit more knowledge. What do you think, Kate?
Absolutely, I agree with that 100%. I mean, the learning starts in the home when the child is starting to learn about their body parts. You can't just send them to school with no basic knowledge of who they are as, this is my nose, this is my eye. They learn that at home. They don't learn that from school.
Right.
I mean, you have to build upon that as they get older, period. You teach them their ABCs. You teach them their colors. And then you send them to school and you reinforce what the teacher is teaching your child. You don't just depend on them to give your child everything that they need to know.
So, what do you ladies, Anisha, do you agree with that?
I definitely agree. I think that every child has an origin, and the origin is the parent. Mm-hmm. So, the child needs to be taught at home how to be in the classroom and how to work in the classroom, how to be respectful. Like you said, they learn the ABCs, they 1, 2, 3 at the house, so the teacher is just supposed to reinforce those activities that were done in the house.
So what do you ladies think is the disconnect? Why are our children coming to school so unprepared? Why the parents actually learn?
I think it is the parents. I mean, so everybody has a curriculum. And let's say, so at preschool or kindergarten, there's the expectation of what the students are going to learn. I think there's also the expectation when you're at home. It's like Keegan just said, the parent is supposed to mold and teach their child up until the time that they enter into school. So they should learn the ABCs, the colors, the body parts, etc. And I think a problem is a lot of the children are going into school and they don't have this basic knowledge. And so they already start behind and absolutely never catch up.
I mean, it's surprising how many kids go to school and don't even know their mother's name.
Absolutely.
So they say, well, what's your mom's name? Mommy? Really? You're 6.
But what about the ones that come to school completely unprepared? I mean, Joe's a teacher, and how many stories have you told me about they don't come to school with pencils and paper? Now, that has to come from home.
That could be something where the parents can't afford certain things. So, I mean, that's kind of...
The child should always be a priority.
Yeah.
Whatever is going on in the parent's life, that child, in a sense, that child mind needs to be protected and needs to be fed at all times.
Right. And that is one of the most frustrating arguments for me, listening about the economic status of this child is there with Jordans. They still wear Jordans? Whatever Air Force Ones, whatever shoes are popular. They have the shoes. They're wearing True Religion jeans, which are about $200 a pair. The girls have the micro braids. These are lots. These aren't braids. But the girls have the micros. They're about $200, and they're name brand purses. You can go to Target and buy a pack of pencils.
Absolutely. Right. I agree with that. Absolutely.
And that's what just frustrates me so much. They keep making it seem like it's an economic thing, but I mean, it's a whole different segment. Poverty in America isn't even what it is in the rest of the world. They can afford the things that they need.
And in that case, it's just a case of bad priority.
Right.
Bad priority.
Bad parenting.
Yeah, bad parenting. Absolutely. I agree with that.
But what about the places like my third grader did not know how to use a dictionary, where when I was in third grade, I was quite proficient at it because my mother made me, but I
So,
wasn't
Mommy,
sure.
are you not making it?
Oh, no. I am very much so making her, but she asked me how to spell something, and I said, look it up. And she goes, Mommy, I don't know how to use that.
That's a sign of the time. Nowadays, they're getting more into technology. With
Spell check.
Spell check and with
Dictionary.com.
Google, anything. You can look it up. Did you mean XYZ? But I taught my kids how to use the dictionary.
Oh, I taught.
Period.
I still use the dictionary.
Maybe archaic. I think part of the problem is, though, and I think it's the political spin that everybody puts on it, that, so there's a crisis Chicago public schools, and there's constant talk about the schools failing the students aren't performing at level, and everybody wants to point a finger. And I think the politicians, oftentimes they blame the teachers and the schools and what we're not doing for them. But if you ask me, myself as a parent, my son is going to go to the right school. And he is going to go to a school that nurtures him and educates him. And if they're incapable of providing him with those services, I'm going to take him out.
Right.
Well, now what I do have to say is, what I know from experience is some parents don't know that they have the option of shopping for schools.
How do you not know that?
Because I had a coworker that didn't know. She's like, how do you know? How did you get your daughter into such and such school? I said, well, because I applied. She goes, well, they don't have to go to school by their house.
But she knew how to shop for the proper price on that Coach purse, though, didn't she?
No, they know how to do what she carried a knockoff.
It's common sense. I mean, parents.
It's not necessarily. I don't think. I'm not with that. I don't agree. I don't think that knowing that there are so many options for schools is common sense, because common sense isn't really common anymore.
That's true.
So if you come from a neighborhood and you go to the same school and your mom went to that school and your kids go to that school, you kind of don't know that you can send them off to Skinner or where the rest of those schools.
Do they not know, as their child is not prepared to go to those schools, because those are select enrollment schools. So you have to pass an achievement test to even be eligible to go to those schools. So is it that the parent just didn't do what they were supposed to do at home, and therefore their child is not eligible for that school, and in their lack of caring, they just let their child go to the neighborhood school?
It's not the parents' fault. It always goes back to the parents, because as the parents, you want your child to be in a school where it's performing well, so your child can perform well. You don't want to send your child to a school that's performing bad. Resources, a parent using their resources to make sure the child is in a safe environment, a healthy environment.
I don't think you'll understand what I'm saying.
I'm on the fence with it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, go ahead.
But I'm on the fence with it because my kids aren't enrolled in CPS. CPS, right?
Yes.
Anyway, but when in Madison, the way it's set up is you go to the school that is assigned to your area. You have to. If you choose to have your child enrolled somewhere else, you are responsible for transportation of that child. Many people do not have the options for transportation because of the way that Madison is set up. It's set up very, I guess, expansively is the word I'm looking for.
Okay.
And they not have vehicles. Transportation, there is public transportation that runs every half hour, but it may not be accessible for someone who has to be at work at 7:30 in the morning.
Right.
So you really don't have many options. There are good schools in Madison. I mean, their school system is actually pretty great, but I believe it's the way that the teachers relate to the students that is part of the problem.
What do you mean by that?
As far as cultural relations, there's a cultural disconnect that goes on where I live that's not necessarily present here in Chicago.
Can you expound on that?
Without being racist, insensitive, not really. There's a lot more Caucasian teachers,
Okay.
and there's a lot more African American students. And when these teachers teach our children, they don't quite understand the dynamics that go on in an African American household versus their own household.
Are you saying there's special dynamics that go on in a black household that a teacher needs to be sensitive to in order to teach them that 2 + 2 is 4?
No, I'm not. However, when a child is coming up in African American household and they learn in a specific way, their parents are teaching them in a specific way. And
Are you saying there's a black way of learning?
there could be.
Like what? Because that frustrates me. Everything sounds like an excuse to me.
Right.
And I'm not calling you out per se.
What it is, there's already, there's already a stigma put on black students when they are being taught by white teachers. They already assume that these children are dumb. Maybe they're not dumb. Maybe they just have a different way of learning. Maybe they're dyslexic. You don't know.
So race of us and maybe dyslexic?
This is,
But it's the parents' responsibility to debunk that.
that's why would the teacher have that stigma already?
Did you hide your kids? Do you see that stuff on TV? Hide your kids, hide your, what's that? Retarded.
Oh, that's ignorance. We're not talking about that.
But it came in this shade.
Right.
and just automatically assume. That's the problem.
Actually,
They see that and they automatically assume that this is how this child is.
And we show them differently.
Right, exactly.
Me in the
That's the point.
classroom, I'm a lifelong learner, and when I'm in the classroom, they do tend to, especially rocking the naps, they come at me with this expectation. As soon as I open my mouth and start talking, it's over for them. And they have to see clearly that I am not the stereotypical, what you finna do, who that is. They see that very clearly. And then so I command and I demand that you treat me in a different and better way.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And this is the thing. When I go to the school and I speak with the teachers, they see, oh, well, she's not the stereotypical mother who sits at home watching TV all day.
Right.
And, batting her butt while she's watching whatever. They understand, okay, she's college educated.
Mm-hmm.
She has children. She actually comes up to the school and attends these parent-teacher conferences or attends whatever little performances they're having, whatever. They see this and they're saying, okay, well, she's not like them.
Right.
And that's also a problem. Why is there a separation? You know what I mean? It should not be a stigma attached to being African American in a predominantly white school system.
But here's the thing, Keegan. When you have, like at my children's school, I mean, they know I work because I go up there quite often in my uniform. So they know if I need to come, I will be there. I am also the email parent. I may not, I am very much an email parent. I may not be able to get there, but you send me a note, I will respond, and the behavior will change. But at the same token, when you have children that ain't gonna, and then their mothers come, and you ain't finna gonna teach my child, and then that adds to the stigma. And it makes the child, it makes the teacher not want to deal with the child because I don't want to deal with your ignorant mama.
That's true.
So it kind of puts the children in a box. And those children, like our children, may very well get treated differently. Okay, well, her mother cares, and her mother speaks well, and her mother is going to curb the behavior when I bring the behavior to her attention. Our children get put in one box, and the ones that are unteachable get put into another box, and that's where it leads off to. Because
they're unteachable, though, right?
No, I don't believe they're unteachable. I believe ignorance begets ignorance.
Yeah.
If you're ignorant, then your child is ignorant, and they may very well be very intelligent, but they just can't.
I don't know, very.
They may be very intelligent. They just can't bring their thoughts out of the way. Exactly. They may very well not know, and they may be a bit behind.
And see, that's the problem. That's what I'm talking about. The problem comes in where these teachers see the children and they automatically assume that your child is like, or this parent is like this ignorant parent over here. And that's the problem. That's the part that needs to be eliminated.
Well, that's why I make a routine of going to the school in uniform. They go, oh, you carry good. I like you.
I hear what you're saying, and it's not fair to apply those stereotypes to our children, as a teacher.
Right.
I mean, we're human, and we do tend to draw certain conclusions, but how will that affect how I teach your child? If I am that Caucasian teacher, and I see your child come in, I'm just trying to paint a scenario, and your child comes in with the sagging pants, talking about who that there, even if I perceive him in a kind of a way, how does that affect my level of instruction? Like, from you as a parent, what do you think I'm going to do that's a disservice to him?
You're automatically stigmatizing him and assuming, well, he's not here to learn. He's here to socialize. So I'm not going to try as hard with him as I may with this child who is sitting here listening to me, not doing anything disruptive in the classroom.
But every child is teachable. The teacher has to know that. They, like you said, they have different styles. They come from different households, different situations. But that child still needs to be treated with respect from the teacher.
Exactly.
Jill, with you're a math teacher. Math is one of those subjects that is either you got it or you don't. There's no room for interpretation of math. It's black and white.
Yeah.
It was very black and white.
How you say, like, from how people learn?
No, from your perspective, because I don't think you're understanding how can I not teach a child math whether or not they're black or white. Math is it's quantitative. It is what it is.
Right.
Okay.
Reading, on the other hand, is something completely different. It's something that you conclude. It's open for your interpretation. And while you call it a cupboard, I may call it a cabinet or whatever else. And when you say right,
And if you read to your child Old Mother Hubbard, then you would also know that it could be called a cupboard.
Exactly, but how many of that people? I mean, and we talked about that earlier. They're not reading to their children.
So then it comes back to the parent, right? The parent isn't reading to their child. The parent isn't making themselves visible in the school, i.e. the teacher feels that it's okay to treat the child a certain way. The parent isn't parenting their child while their pants are sagged and they're looking hood and perpetuating that myth and end up being treated in a certain kind of way.
She doesn't know what her son's parents do at school.
He leaves the house with them up around his waist.
Now this is where people's teacher-parent communication comes in. If the child is showing up with saggy pants and he or she did not leave home like that, then the teacher needs to, have a talk with the parent. It's all about communication, but it's also about grooming, and it comes back to the parents.
I don't think it's a matter of priority because it always astounds me when I talk to Jillian and she says she tried to call a parent and call a parent and call a parent and the parent would never answer. That parent would never come.
Or the number's disconnected.
Hold on, but when you take the iPod, the parent shows up the very next morning.
Yes.
Yes. That's amazing to me.
The parent doesn't pay for the school fees, replace the book, but when it's time for prom, they have the fanciest car, the most expensive dress. Then the parent has all the money. What we're doing at our school is we're saying that you can't buy a prom ticket if you don't pay your student fees. I love it. I love it. You have to pay it. But just to kind of close us out a little, and I know it's brief and it's such a topic that we want to expand on. I know. If there's one message I want to impart to the people listening is when we start talking about who is at fault for the state of Black America, our children's education, I have one person to point the finger at, and it's the parents. It's you.
I agree.
It's your fault. You fix it, and you handle your business.
I agree.
Well,
Parents.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, so thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening, and please go to our Facebook page, Living Single While Parenting, and let us know what you think. We'd appreciate it.